Today, what we're going to do is dive into one of the most critical skills that you're going to need to master as a real estate investor: how to talk to homeowners. Since we focus on foreclosures, we're going to walk through a conversation with a homeowner in foreclosure, but this is where most investors lose the deal before it even begins, because one wrong move here can cost you the entire deal. If you want to know what those mistakes are and how to avoid them, stick around. This might be one of the most important videos about wholesaling that you'll watch. First things first, talking to homeowners is not about being pushy or salesy. It's about having a conversation with another human being. When you approach a homeowner, your goal is not to sell them on your offer. It's to understand their situation, build trust, and see if you can provide a solution that works for both of you. Here's the golden rule, though. Build rapport before you talk about the house. Do not start the conversation asking about the roof, the HVAC, the age of the windows. That's a great way to sound like every other bad investor out there. Instead, connect with them as a person. Don't look at people as a transaction like most investors do. They are a person that's going through a rough time. We're here to help them. To give you an example, I have bought a lot of houses, and there have been dozens of situations where I wasn't the highest offer, but the homeowner trusted me more, so I got the deal. So let's talk about what to say. There's 4 key parts to every conversation with a homeowner: the introduction, qualifying the seller, understanding the motivation and the property condition, and presenting the offer. So let's break this down. So again, my team and I deal almost exclusively with homeowners in foreclosure, and it's a big part of what we teach because these are highly motivated sellers. So this is the script that we use when we talk to homeowners on the phone, and it can be adopted to talking to homeowners in person. And you can change this script up for any type of lead. But the main point here is to listen to my tone, the pace, and the flow of the script. If I'm calling a homeowner in foreclosure, this is how the call would go. Number 1, I'm going to have papers in my hand that I'm going to be shuffling around so they can hear it in the background. And number 2, when they answer the phone, this is what I'm going to say. Hey, is this John? Hey, John, this is just Ben Allgaier. I was wondering if you could help me out. So I just had some information come across my desk. It looks like your lender scheduled a sale. Does that sound right? Okay. Well, man, I was just calling to see if you had that handled, or if there's, anything I can do to help. So guys, notice the tone there. It's curious. I'm not being pushy. I'm not calling them and saying, hey, I saw your house is in foreclosure. Do you want to sell? I'm inviting them into a conversation. And what you're going to do is you're going to get them intrigued in what you have to say. So from here, you're going to get one of 2 responses, okay? Number 1 is, no, I'm good. I got it handled. You can dig into that if you want, or you can just say, great. If you ever need any help or you have questions, feel free to reach out. I specialize in helping homeowners in these situations. Here's my phone number. But if they say, yeah, I need help, then we can move on to the qualification stage. So what does that look like? Well, before we dive into our options, we want to take a few minutes to kind of understand their situation. So in the qualification stage, we would say something like, okay, John, I'd love to see if I can help, but I need to know more about your situation first. So it usually takes me about 5 minutes, and at the end, I'll let you know if I think this is something that I can help with, and if not, I'll try to point you in the right direction. So then what we do is we walk them through their options. So John, really there's 3 options for you at this point that we've seen in the past that work best for homeowners. Number 1 is, go ahead and pay that reinstatement, the amount that you're behind. Just call your lender up and figure out what that amount is. Most homeowners can't pay this because if they could, they would have done that already. So that option almost always gets thrown out. So then we go to option number 2. Yeah, John, if that option doesn't work, you might try to apply for a loan modification. Call your lender up, see if they're willing to work with you. And a lot of the times what they'll do is they'll just take the amount that you're behind and they'll just throw it onto the back of the loan, and you can just continue to make your payments. It'll extend your payment period out a little bit longer, maybe a couple more years. A lot of homeowners have already tried this. It's not going to work for them. And that leads us to option number 3. John, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Like, I hate this part of my job where I got to give people just not great news. But if those options don't work for you, it might make sense to look at selling the house. And once you explain those options, many homeowners realize that selling might be their best option, which sets the stage for the next part when we start talking about how much we can pay for their home. Okay? So step 3 is understanding their motivation and the property condition. In foreclosure, we know their motivation, but we still want to dig into that and kind of dig up some other things that might be motivating them to want to sell the house, right? So now that we've built some trust, it's time to dig deeper. And again, we focus on that motivation. We don't focus on the property details. So here's what we can say. John, I know this isn't an easy situation, but I'm here to help you find the best path forward. Before we get into the details of the house, what's your biggest concern about selling right now? This gets them talking about their pain points. They're most of the time going to have some other pain points. And what we want to do is we want to use some tools, some conversational tools like mirroring and labeling. So mirroring, first and foremost, is when you repeat the last few words of what they're saying to keep the conversation going, keep them talking, help them to just uncover all those things that they're keeping inside that are holding them back from wanting to move forward on selling the house. So John says on the phone, I'm worried about moving. You're worried about moving? That's what I would say. I would mirror the last few words of what he said, and that would prompt John to go, yeah, like my kids, I don't know, we may have to go to a different school district, yada, yada, yada. I haven't moved in a very long time. I don't even know the process of moving. And then we can help them with that. Like, John, we've got a connection with a moving company that may be able to help. We may be able to get you some moving expenses covered up front, and you'll be able to walk away with some cash, hopefully, that can help you with the moving expenses. So the second thing that we can do is use labeling. It's another conversational tool where we essentially will just acknowledge their emotions to let them know that we're listening to them and that we hear what they're saying. We can reiterate that back, okay? So let's say, for example, John's talking about the house. He's talking about how it's been a big source of stress lately, not just with the pending foreclosure, but they've had a lot of issues with it, had a lot of things they've had to fix. It's just been a big time and money suck. So we can say something like, John, it sounds like this house has been kind of a big source of stress for you lately. Have you kind of thought about what it might look like? If 6 months down the line you were moved on from that house, had something that was a little more affordable, and you had this whole stress and this headache behind you. So that's what labeling would look like. And once they open up, we can then start gathering some details about the property. So we've built that rapport on the front end. We've done that now. Now let's get the details of the property so we can figure out what we can pay. So the way that we do this is we ask simple conversational questions. Questions like, how long have you lived in the house? Can you kind of confirm the bedroom and bathroom count for me? When was the last time you did any updates in the bathroom? How long has it been since the windows were replaced? Remember, guys, this isn't an interrogation. It's a conversation. So take your time, genuinely listen to what they're saying, and focus on understanding the homeowner situation. Below this video, you're going to find a list of the 19 condition questions that we ask to evaluate a property. So our offers are based on the condition details that the homeowner provides. And while we always verify that information later, we are able to maintain the flexibility to renegotiate if things don't match up to what they told us. Transparency is key here, and this approach keeps everything fair for both sides. Okay? So now we're ready for step 4, and that's presenting our offer. This is the big moment. Once we have a good idea of their needs, the condition of the property, we can figure out what we can offer for it. And we've got some other videos on how to determine your offer, so go check those out. But getting back on track here, one thing to remember during this step: do not call it an offer. Why, Ben? Why shouldn't I call it an offer? Well, because it sets the expectation in the seller's mind that they can shop it around. Instead, what we want to say is, based on everything that you've told me, here's what your property qualifies for. And before you give them the number, reiterate the benefits. John, this is going to be a net number to you. What you will walk away with at closing. You won't have to pay any fees. There'll be no commissions. You won't have to do any repairs. Then we present the number. Once they hear the number, you need to pause. Let them process. And if they say, Ben, I need to think about it, don't just walk away. Don't give up there. What you want to say back to that is something along the lines of, John, when someone tells me they need to think about it, it's usually because I haven't done my job. I haven't answered all of your questions. So between you and me, John, and, completely off the record, what's holding you back? Most of the time, saying that sentence will uncover their real concern, and you can address it right then and there. What we're going to do next is, if we're on the phone with them, we're going to send over the agreement. We're going to walk them through it. We're going to get it signed, and we're going to have a contract in place. Most of our deals are done using this exact strategy without ever driving to a house or talking to a homeowner in person. So you can do this too. Homeowners over the phone. You can walk them through this 4-step process, and you can get contracts without ever seeing a house. Okay? So what I want to talk about now are some common mistakes and how to avoid them. Number 1, not building rapport. I want you guys to have a frame in your mind of the 80-20 rule. So what that means and applied to real estate is 80% of your conversations with homeowners are about the house, about them, about their lives, about what they're going through. 20% of the conversation is about the property. If you get that ratio out of balance, it can put the deal in jeopardy. Okay, number 2 is ignoring key details. So pay attention to what they're saying. Pay attention to the small things that they mention. Don't try to think of the next thing to say. Actually listen to the homeowner. And again, guys, we're not going off of a script. We're talking to a human being. We're building a relationship with a human being. We figure out all of the rest later. Right now, in the beginning and throughout most of the process, all we're doing is building that connection with a homeowner. Okay? I've lost deals in the past. In the beginning of my career, I lost a deal because I didn't listen close enough, and a $400 dumpster was what flipped the switch between the homeowner using me, who offered more on the house, versus using the other guy who he went with because the other guy offered him a $400 dumpster. Okay? So listen, pay attention. It can be the difference between getting the deal or not getting the deal. And then number 3 is backing off too soon. When a homeowner says, I need to think about it, don't take that at face value. You got to dig deeper. So what's the big takeaway here? The reality of negotiating deals is this. If you genuinely care about helping homeowners and you focus on building trust, this entire process becomes so much smoother and so much easier. You don't need a flawless script. You don't need any fancy closing tactics. Authenticity and empathy are your most powerful tools. So let's recap what we covered today. We talked about the importance of building trust and rapport when speaking with homeowners, focusing on their needs before diving into the property details. I talked about 4 key parts of the conversation with homeowners, starting with a soft introduction, qualifying the seller by understanding their situation, digging into their motivation and the property's condition, and finally, presenting an offer in a strategic way that is designed to solidify a seller's trust in you. If you can master these conversations, you're not only going to close more deals, you're going to build a reputation as someone who genuinely cares. And trust me, guys, that is the foundation for long-term success in this business. If you got value from this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop your questions in the comments below. I'm here to help you guys succeed. So let's get to work.